this in. All right. Whoops. Okay. There we go. All right. You know what, Harriet? Your museum is closed right now, right? It's on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. It's closed.
Yes, just the winter, and plus this year we're really doing some massive remodeling. I've got 18 brand new exhibits, and I don't have any place to put them.
That sounds like a good problem.
Yeah, it is. It's fun.
Awesome. All right, so you know what we're gonna do? The sound is perfect. Everything sounds pretty good.
Okay.
We're just waiting for my buddy Teddy to come out of the. He's relieving himself. So I think when we do, I think we can just get started if that's okay with you.
That's perfect for me. Whatever you guys, you're the boss.
Yeah, no, you know what? My wife would beg to differ. Okay, so I'm going to try to get my. I don't know if you can hear me in the background. I'm going to try to send my dogs to a bad place. Try to get them to stop. Try to stop barking. Every once in a while, they go ahead and they get on the show, and it drives me crazy. So give me 1 second.
Okay.
We're all good. Her sound is perfect. I'll restart and. I'd like to edit, but I know I can't. I don't know how. So just start over again. Okay, you guys good? All right, then we are set. Harriet, so what we'll do is I'll do a really short little thing at the beginning, and then we'll get started. I'm going to introduce the two guys. I'm going to introduce Ted and Mark, and then I'll go ahead and introduce you, if that's okay.
That's fine. And I have my assistant manager here with me.
Oh, who's here?
Her name is Snooksy, and if she snores, I will just kind of give her a little nudge.
Ah, okay. No, it's no problem. We've had babies crying on the show, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we had one of the girls I used to work with. She came on to help us out with our astrology show, and and she was nursing as she was as we were doing our show, so it was kind of funny.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's nice. I said I said to her, I said, how many people have a show that has a crying baby on it? Probably not. Probably not a lot.
That has a lactating room.
Or has
It's happened.
Right. Oh man. Okay. So, guys, I hope you don't mind if we kind of don't talk about what we usually don't get started. We get started with something, right? I hope you guys don't mind. I know there's in the news. There's like another moron who took a selfie with a wild animal. A bunch of politicians telling lies. A guy. This is one of my favorites. A guy who got in an accident and actually blamed his toddler for using his phone. But we gotta. I want to get right to the show. Does that sound good?
Let's get
Yeah,
to
well,
the point.
also,
Yes.
somebody hit and killed a puma on 88 yesterday.
By our house?
Well, in Dixon, so about an hour away.
A puma? Like a
Yeah,
cat?
Like a mountain lion.
Mountain
Like a
lion. Yeah, mountain lion.
Oh my God. Harriet, do you guys have mountain lions by you?
I've had them in my front yard twice, in fact, and I just happened to have a trail camera up because I knew nobody would believe me. And they were here one year in April and the next year in May,
Wow.
full grown.
Wow.
Okay, so that's got to be scary. So you go outside to take out the garbage or get some tomatoes out of the garden. I imagine you have tomatoes in the garden. And there's a 60, 70 pound puma.
More like two. I mean, I think their range is like thousands of miles, and they go way up to 200 pounds.
What?
Oh
Yeah.
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 Oh
And,
my.
and their tail is about 5 feet long.
Yeah, the one that they hit in Illinois on 88 in Dixon, it was on the Ronald Reagan Memorial Expressway, which is 88. They thought they hit a deer.
It was that big?
Yeah, they thought they hit a deer, and they got out and they realized it was a bobcat. And I'm assuming they got back in the car and they called authorities, and it was dead. And it's now down at the University of Illinois for an autopsy. But they think they know they've been tracking this puma for mountain lion for a few years, so they know that it's been in Illinois for a while.
I wonder if it was tagged.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that is so weird. Okay, but we need to get to the show because the puma is not what everybody is here for.
Sure.
Yeah,
not what I'm here
absolutely
for,
not. Yeah, I am not here for that either. Okay, so hey, everybody, my name is Matt, and welcome to the Real Three Idiots podcast. The guy across from me is either the friend to all winged creatures or the last thing they will ever see, my friend Teddy.
Hey, good to be back. Thank you, and I'm very excited about our special guest today.
I know, so am I. So am I. Okay, the fella to my left is to beards what Tom Selleck is to mustaches, our buddy Mark.
Thank you. Wow. All right.
Hey, and Tom Selleck rocked a mustache.
Yeah, he
I
did.
mean, come on.
I think he still does.
I think he still does. I mean, that guy.
It's very luxurious.
Yeah, it's weird. I wonder what he looks like. I mean, I don't want to see it.
Well, it's like Abraham Lincoln without a beard and mustache. You wouldn't recognize the guy. You know?
Right. No, he didn't have a mustache. Didn't he just have a beard?
I think he had a
Lincoln
beard.
just had a beard
Yeah,
and a
you'd
top.
recognize him because he's always wearing that hat.
Yeah. Well, he didn't have
right
a top
away
hat
you'd
on.
say,
Yeah, okay. And now we have a very special guest with us. She is a businesswoman, an author. She runs a museum, and she probably knows more about Bigfoot than anybody on the planet. So please welcome Harriet McFeely to the show. Harriet, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, you guys.
welcome.
Welcome.
And we are so happy to have you on the show.
Matt, could I just say one thing?
Absolutely.
The man on the right that has a hat on, the beard,
Yep.
I don't think your sound is turned on because I can't hardly hear you at all.
Oh, okay. How about?
Yeah, so you know what? That was a problem. That was a problem the last time. So I'll see if I can't. I will make a little bit of an adjustment and see if we can't get Mark to be heard a little bit better. Yeah,
That's not intentional, is it, Matt?
I've actually been I've been trying to tune him out for months now.
I've
so
been
maybe,
censored, Harriet.
So Harriet's ahead of the curve.
Oh my! That is so crazy. Okay, so Harriet, I'm going to tell some. I want to tell some people what you do, and let's see if I get it right. Okay, so you run Bigfoot Crossroads of America Museum and Research Center in Hastings, Nebraska. Did I get it right?
Absolutely perfect.
Oh man, that is awesome. Okay, so really quick, how long have you been running that? How long has that museum been around and you've been running it?
I opened the museum. Actually, it was a birthday present from me to me, and it was in September. Was our 4th anniversary.
Oh, nice.
That is awesome. So that is so cool that you did this. So has it been like a dream? That's something that you wanted to do for a long time?
Yeah, because I couldn't find my dining room table anymore.
And that's not because a Bigfoot got it. It's because it was full of big. I'm assuming your house was probably like its own museum, right?
Yes, and I just love those things. I love, when I was a kid, I wanted to work in a museum my whole entire life, but I never ever even considered the possibility that it'd be mine. Never.
Wow. So you accumulated so much stuff and artifacts that you literally made your dream come true just by being so involved over the years, right? And you're like, I need to do this. I need a place to put it. It serves two purposes.
Yep. You know
Awesome.
what? I never even cared if I had a place to put it because I just love things. From the time I was a kid, I drug home fossils and clams and seashells and bones and rocks and pictures.
But it's awesome because
No,
now you get to
I
share it with
love things
everybody.
like that.
Now you get to share it with people you don't know as opposed to before, right? They were only people you knew came in your house, right? So now you
No.
get to share it with everybody.
Friends, yeah, that's all. And I like to put things in categories. I don't like a big hodgepodge mess. So I have my dinosaur bones are together and my woolly mammoth bones are together. And I've got skulls from Peru, 3 ladies. And so I think all of these things are sort of related. Some things I don't know exactly how for sure. I just feel that.
Sure.
So do people give you things? I mean, are you collecting this stuff, or are people also giving you stuff?
Yeah, it's both. But for all the years before, it was everything mine because I like to go hiking and camping and all those things. And so it was basically mine. But since I have opened, like Cliff Brackman, he gave me 3 hand casts, which I really, really love. I have those. Joe Taylor from Texas has given me fossil bones, Tyrannosaurus Rex teeth. A man not very long ago brought me a tooth of a hippopotamus that he found about 50 miles from where I lived. So it's really a big variety of things here.
Wait a minute. You Hastings, Nebraska is like southern Nebraska, right? You guys are.
I think real quick. I've actually been through Hastings, Nebraska back in the day, and I want to say it's right off of I-80. Am I correct? Yeah.
Right, but there aren't hippopotamus there, are there?
Well, I think I think there was a very significant dinosaur bed found in Nebraska somewhere. I don't know where, but it was like some local kids or archaeologists were, and it was from years ago, but it was a very significant find. But it was in Nebraska, I believe. Dinosaurs.
Yes, they say the Republican River is kind of the dividing line between Nebraska and Kansas. And they have said that they have found more woolly mammoth and mastodon bones, skeletons, on the Republican than any other state in the whole United States.
Wow.
That is 45 miles straight south of my front door.
Got it.
Okay.
So just in full disclosure, there is no Democratic river, right? There's just the Republican River. I mean, you guys.
Yep. Republican, and also the big red people.
So I just want to ask just 2 quick questions. These are obvious questions, but I'm going to forget to ask them. So my first question is, what are your hours of operation on a weekly basis for your museum?
We open at 10:30 in the morning and we close at 4:30. We try, and that's right now. It's Wednesday through Saturday, and then on Sundays we're open from 1 until 4:30.
Okay, and do you charge admission?
Yes, it's $5 per person. And what was I good? Oh, I was just going to say those days and hours right now are for the winter.
Okay.
In the summer, we're open, a lot more hours. Also, if somebody wants a birthday party or a meeting or whatever here, then we open up on special days or nights or whatever they want. We do it.
That would be so awesome if you had a birthday party, a Bigfoot birthday party, or like think about it, your typical boring like office
Chuck E. Cheese for kids or
yeah,
something.
No, but I'm saying what if you had like a company, right? Like your insurance company, you got like 100 employees and you have the most boring meetings, you have the most boring things ever, and instead you do your thing at a Bigfoot museum. Oh my God, that'd be awesome.
Well, you should have seen what happened here last week. I had a lady that was an instructor. We have it's a community college. In fact, I can see it out my kitchen window. And they brought 10 students here and they wanted to walk around. And I have also the only Bigfoot handicap accessible garden in the entire world. And so we were out walking around the garden and I was just kind of pointing out some things and we were having a nice day. All of a sudden I heard a noise and it sounded like, it sounds like there's a horse in my front yard coming around the end of my house toward us. And so we all kind of stopped and looked, and all of a sudden, here came this Bigfoot charging right at us.
What?
And the instructor screamed. I thought she was going to have a heart attack. And all the kids are going, look, what's that? And he came and ran right by us. And in the center of my garden, I have like an island, and it's just got kind of evergreens around the bottom. But in the center, I had built a big structure like the Bigfoot built, kind of a sort of a big teepee. And so he went around the back of the teepee. And, one of the nicknames for the Bigfoot is they call them tree peekers. And so he was peeking around the tree, looking at all the students from the college.
God.
And I tell you what, that created quite an uproar.
Well, I would imagine. Yeah, I mean,
Wait a minute.
That's unbelievable.
So just last week?
Yeah, it was last Thursday night. And See, normally people go through the museum first and then they walk around the garden kind of at their leisure. But it had turned cold that day, and plus it's getting dark earlier. So I switched the order around and I had them walk around the garden first, and then they were going to go back and tour the inside of the museum.
So, okay. So this leads me to the question I had just before you said that you're an avid, you love to go camping and everything. So this would be the second time you've actually seen a Bigfoot, right? Because I read that in 1953 in a camping trip in Colorado, that was the first time you saw two Bigfoot, and that's when you were like, oh my God.
Not exactly. In 1953 I can tell you exactly the day I got interested, because I came home from school and my dad always watched the news. And on that day, Sir Edmund Hillary was climbing to the top of Mount Everest, and he needed to go a little bit to the right so he would be on a ridge so he could go to the top.
Uh-huh.
But on the left, there was a ridge also, and there were giant footprints in the snow. And they were so big, the word Bigfoot was never conned at that time.
Right.
And so they took a pickaxe and laid it down next to the prints so they could kind of show a scale as to how big it was. And it was just right on the button when I walked in from school. And I can remember that like it happened yesterday. That was the day that I believed. I've never changed my mind. And from then on, I read, I studied everything I could think of up until the present day.
So tell us about the camping trip in Colorado.
Okay, the camping trip was my very, very first chance to ever go out camping, specifically kind of a research project, looking for Bigfoot or their relatives or whoever.
And how old were you?
That was only like about 6 or 7 years ago. So, of course, I'm only 39.
Do you remember what part of Colorado it was, just by happenstance?
Yes, I do. It was in the Rocky Mountains, and we were about, I'd say maybe 40 to 45 miles, just about straight west of Denver.
Okay.
And and also that would be about maybe about that same distance north of Manitou,
Okay.
Colorado.
So this was just a few years before you officially opened your museum, but you were already way into it. You had a ton of stuff filling your house, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
true. But on the other hand, I was nobody. Nobody knew me. I had zero reputation. I knew a few people, and that was just because every year, usually, my husband and I would go to a Bigfoot conference, always in some other state. So, I was just an average person out enjoying the mountains.
So you're not average anymore, because this is something I know. The governor of Nebraska literally gave you the title of Bigfoot Lady. Is that right?
Just about. It's the official Bigfoot Lady of Nebraska.
Oh, well, of Nebraska.
Nice.
That's awesome. And then there's a Bigfoot guy, right?
Yes.
And Kenneth Collins. Who's Kenneth?
It's Kenny, and he is a friend of mine. He is a 30-year researcher, and he previously lived in Estes Park, Colorado, but he really loved my museum. So even though he loves the mountains and everything, he moved to Hastings. And so he's around often, and he's got displays in my museum, and he's made a couple fantastic models of Bigfoot.
Okay, so the reason we have you on this week, and this is so cool, so I'll tell you guys this. I talked to Harriet, I'm going to say about a month and a half ago, and it was one of the best conversations I've ever had with anybody, and she didn't know me from anybody. I called her up, and I said, oh, you have a museum, and we started talking and everything, and I said, well, what would be a good time for you to come on? And you said this week, because there's two really special things that are happening this week. What are the two really special things that are going on that are special about the week of October 20th?
Okay, tomorrow is a really special day. It is Bob Gimlin's birthday. And people already have started in today sending him, birthday wishes. And he was a speaker at one of our conferences here a few years ago. It was right before COVID. And he is such a fantastic man. He calls me maybe once or twice a year, and I call him, and we just have the best time. And so tomorrow will be October 19th. That is his birthday. And the very next day is October 20th. And that will be 55 years to the day since Roger Patterson filmed Patty walking down Bluff Creek in California.
Right. So everybody in the whole world has probably seen this video, right? This is like the world's...
I didn't know what it was called until just
right.
now, but yeah,
so it is the world's most famous...
It's like the Zapruder film. Yeah,
it's
world
it is.
famous.
It is literally that. It is the Zapruder film. But the world's most famous Bigfoot video of all time, right? That's kind of how... Isn't that... It's kind of how like most people would have gotten their start Bigfooting. Is that what it's called? Bigfooting or... What would you call it?
Or whatever. That's okay. But yes, so that will, and on the 50th, I was invited to go to California because boy, that town out there had a rip snorting celebration for the video. And I had a lot of fun and I met a lot of people and I actually walked down Bluff Creek exactly where Patty walked. And when I was down there, I said, God, please do not let me fall down dead and have a heart attack. I just want to walk back. And you know what? It was, like I said, it was October 20th. And the weather there is pretty much exactly like it is here in Nebraska. And also for you guys in Chicago. It was so beautiful. And I took a lot of pictures and the leaves were just yellow and red and orange and a fantastic blue sky and the water of Bluff Creek. It was just crystal blue. You could see every single rock on the bottom. It was a great day.
See, that is awesome. Now, the other thing that makes this week special is October 20th is Bigfoot Crossroads of Nebraska Day, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, are you guys doing something special for that?
Just, inviting people to come in and see Patty and talk and visit. And we've got kind of a big patio, it's an entranceway to go into the museum. And so we have all kinds of groups. I never know who is dropping in, but, we visit, we talk. And I have a lot of people that call me up and say, Harriet, if I go to McDonald's and get an Egg McMuffin, can I eat my breakfast on your patio?
What?
Okay, that's fine.
What? Wait a minute. Do you have like kids that come out and they're like, can I, if we bring a 6-pack, can we have a couple of beers on the patio?
Or just get like a latte machine, one of those Keurig machines, and just serve your own coffee and have, or like a snack. I don't know if you have like a snack shop there at your museum.
We don't have any, and we don't have them bring a 6-pack unless a Dr. Pepper.
BYOB, yeah, BYOB. That's a good idea.
Perfect.
Oh, it's a BYOP.
Right. Bring your own pop, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
I love that. Okay, so what kind of things do you have at your museum? I mean, you talked about some of the dinosaur stuff, but what kind of Bigfoot stuff do you guys have at your museum?
Well, the very first thing that I always like to show people is we have a map on the wall, and it has a red pin for every sighting that we know of so far. And the thing about the pins, I don't know, I never counted them, but I'd say maybe 30 or 35, which is not very many. But on the other hand, I've only been open for 4 years. But they say statistically, for every 10 sightings, only 1 out of 10 is ever reported. So if I had even 25 sightings and you multiplied it by 10, that'd be 250 sightings in Nebraska. I think that's a lot more accurate.
Well, yeah. So one of the things I was looking at is not just around America, but around the world, there are Bigfoot, Yeti, Sasquatch, whatever the different names are. I mean, I was looking up stuff. China, Canada, Nepal, Australia, Indonesia. They all have this thing that's very similar to ours.
Yes, I think they're just cousins. And I don't mean like evolutionary cousins. I mean like you could have cousins that live in North Dakota and they'd still be the same as you are.
Right.
Oh, that makes
Are you
sense.
following me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't. I know my cousins aren't listening, so I can say this. My cousins are not like me at all. They're yeah. I don't know if one of them has a job.
That's because you were adopted.
Yeah. You know what? Based on my family reunions, I would not be surprised at all. Honestly.
So like what Edmund Hillary saw on Mount Everest is basically the same creature, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And the one thing that I really like, people are always saying, what are they? You know, are they a gorilla? Nope. Chimpanzee? Nope. That, you know, all these things. Are they a bear? Not even close.
Right.
But the people in Russia, I love what they say. They say, they call them the forest people. And I like that. I think that's a great definition. I believe that. And then the Indians, a lot of the Native Americans, they say they are just another us. And I like that too. I believe that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now here's the thing about the Russian Bigfoot. If they're similar to us, I tell them to keep hiding because I'm pretty sure Putin is going to grab them and draft them and make them fight. So hopefully they stay hidden for a long time and they don't have to get involved in any of this stuff here. Okay, so let.
I just have one little comment about that. And you're
okay.
wrong. I hate to say that. I never say that. But Putin, this was, I think about 10 years ago, he was flying over Siberia, which is pretty desolate, and they flew over a ridge, and when they looked down, there was mom and dad and two kids walking down the backside of the mountain. And Putin just about flipped. He was so surprised. And the good part that came out of that was when he went back to Moscow, he established a kind of like a group that would do investigations and to see what was this thing and what could possibly come out of that, which I never knew about Putin, was that he's very much of an animal person and that he had in Russia created a whole group and it's Save the Whales. So if he would do that for the Bigfoot, it would be illegal to kill one or shoot one or anything. And so even though I don't agree with his politics, I would love that if they would say, save the Yeti in Russia.
Right.
Wow, that is crazy. Now, speaking of that, I know the FBI, at some point, the FBI investigated Bigfoot. Is that right?
Well, I think they have off and on, but they have a tendency not to confess.
Yeah, that's,
So-
you know what, that's very true.
It's a sort of like the UFOs. Everybody knows there's no such thing.
You know what?
Oh.
And that's funny because we had a UFO guy on about a month and a half ago, Mac Maloney, and you know this is what I asked him. I said, do you think people don't say that they've seen UFOs because of the stigma of, you know, hey, oh, you're crazy, whatever? Do you think that it's the same thing with people like oh man, I might have seen a Bigfoot, I might have seen a Sasquatch, and they're just like, listen, I'm not going to say that because people are going to think I'm crazy.
That's absolutely right. And you know what? Some jobs, if you say you have seen one, the next day you'll be looking for a new job.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't particularly like my job right now, so that'd be great. I might just get on.
There's your out.
I might just do that tomorrow. Okay, so here's the thing. So we got to talk about this, right? The fact that there's a lot of people that think that this is insanity, this is crazy, right? So when somebody, it's like I'm sure that people come into your museum, and instead of being there to have fun and being there to enjoy themselves, they probably give you a hard time about that. I mean, does that happen?
In a way it happens, but it doesn't give me a hard time. I'm not discouraged. Everybody can have their own opinion. But as my really good friend just said to me 2 days ago, that they estimate that now there have been over 7,000 sightings of a Bigfoot. And even if only a tenth of those were real, that's a lot of sightings. And then I wondered, we've already got 7,000, so does it take 10 before people believe, or 20 or 40? What's the magic number? I don't know.
You know what? So that's funny because our UFO guy, Mac Maloney, had said the same thing. He said that there's with all the UFO sightings, 90% of them absolutely explainable. And then he said, but those 10% that aren't, that's the ones that you have to look at, right?
Well, like for example, like we talked about where you said like the U.S. Navy flying sorties, sees an object that obviously moves faster than anything of a human capabilities, and it's not a weather balloon like the Area 51, so that you can't explain that away. And I wonder if it's the same, so there is some there. And I think we also brought up the point of like if a UFO landed in a heavily populated area, it'd almost be like everybody was doing in the world would just stop, and it would be special news bulletin. I mean, because it would be the biggest story of all time, right? I mean, everything would just stop, and the world would stop, and it would just be focused on that, like almost like a War of the Worlds thing. And I think with the Bigfoot or the Sasquatch or the Yeti, it's the same thing. I think if a new species was discovered alive, I mean that would be the news of the century.
Yeah,
that's true. And I had just heard on the news a few months ago that every single year they discover over 400 brand new animals that they didn't even know exist. And on the other side of the coin, there's 400 animals that go extinct. So it keeps a balance. 400 seems to be kind of the magic number.
Yeah. So what's funny is I actually, when I was looking up, I was doing some research. I always do my research for this. But the Natural History Museum said that they found 270, just in 2018, they found 270 new animal species. So, I mean, is it that unlikely that this thing, or those animals did not exist up until 2018? Yeah. No one knew they were there. Is it that unlikely that these things aren't somewhere? But here's my thing, Harriet. Why haven't we found a dead one? Why haven't we found a live one? Like a really good high definition video, or some guy who, a hunter who decides he's going to put a bullet in one because, hunters do that stuff. Why haven't we found one yet?
I get asked that question almost daily at the museum. And I think there's a couple reasons. First of all, they are super, super intelligent, I think. And you have to understand that their survival depends on not being seen. And so, they're nocturnal, but they are around in daytime also. So that's survival to them. And I also believe that the reason you haven't found a body is I think they bury their dead. And they mourn just like we do. They cry when something happens to somebody in the family, and they bury them. And they are such experts at burying that I don't think it would be a miracle if you ever found one of their graves.
Okay, so that leads me to this then. Okay, so I'm going to do two things. So I know that you wrote a book, but before we talk about your book, I'm going to talk about this. So if you've ever read the book or seen the movie World War Z, okay, Max Brooks wrote this awesome book about World War Z, zombie thing. And the movie was terrible, but the book was so different and so great. He also wrote this really cool book called Devolution, and it was about these people that went up into the woods. I don't know, it was like rural Washington, and they they kind of got in the way of these Bigfoot, and that they lived there and everything, and they kind of it's really great. Devolution. If you want to read this book, it's fiction, but it's really cool. And it kind of talks about how they do that, like that exact same thing, like it's a family thing, and that they kind of if we got in the way, what would happen. So with that said, you also wrote a book. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep, I did.
Okay, so what was your book?
Well, first of all, people said, "Oh, is that on your bucket list?" And I said, "I didn't even have a bucket." It was definitely not on my list. I've been a reader my whole life, but it's just like the museum. I never, ever dreamed it would be that I would do it. And I've always had goal lists my whole life. So that was nothing new. But the book, I always have a notebook with me when I travel or wherever, because I'll see something interesting. So I write it down so I don't forget it. And then I can go back and check it out. And so anyway, the book came about because of the extremely unusual things that happened in the little tiny town of Garrison, Nebraska, which is only about 15 or 20 miles away from Lincoln, which is our state capital. And 3 years ago on Memorial Weekend, they had always put the same flag up for almost 40 years on that weekend. And they did on 3 years ago. But on that Sunday of Memorial Weekend, the people in that town were absolutely devastated because they thought that vandals had completely ruined their flag. It was no doubt about it. It was ruined. And so exactly 12 days after the flag was ruined, I had 3 ladies that it was just a coincidence. They came to the museum from Garrison and they walked through. I usually kind of walk through with people and point out, about the different exhibits. And so I was doing that. And I said to those ladies, how did you happen to come here? And she looked at me really serious and she said, because she said, we heard that you were weird. I said, well, I thought that was a compliment.
Yeah.
And I still do. And so anyway, on one side of my museum, the main one, I also have another smaller adjacent building, but on the main one, I have a big exhibit that belongs to Don Monroe. And it's about the phenomenon that they believe that the Bigfoot are braiding the manes of the horses. And
wait, hold on. So a Bigfoot would go to a horse and then braid their mane?
Absolutely. Yep, they do.
So when the flag was, how was the flag vandalized? What did it look like? Like what happened?
It was, I saw the flag a couple of weeks after that, and the lady, in fact, she was standing in my museum, and I had a big rug on the floor, and the rug is 5 feet wide and 7 feet long. That is exactly the size that the flag in Garrison was. That's called a casket flag. I didn't know that. And anyway, where the blue was with all the stars, it was absolutely, totally perfect. There was not one thing wrong with it. And we flipped it over and we looked on the other side. It was perfect over there also. But from where the stars were, they tore the flag in strips on the stripes of the flag. And I thought that was really low life to do that. That affected a lot of people. And this lady said to me, well, we thought it was really weird. That's a key word. Boy, when I hear that, I pay attention.
Yeah, that's really weird.
And yeah. And she said, it was so weird because after they tore the stripes in strips, then they tied a knot. And those knots were so tight that the soldiers that happened to be in the cemetery that morning, because of Memorial Weekend, they originally had thought that they would untie the knots and just kind of spread the flag out so they could still use it. But even the soldiers who had strong hands and fingers, they could not untie the knots. So right there, I was really listening. And she said, and then after they tied the knots, then they braided the flag. And I about fainted right there.
So it sounds like a very specific type of vandalism. Someone's trying to make a statement almost. We're not talking about like spray paint or setting something on fire.
Yeah. So does Bigfoot not like America? Is that? I mean, is it?
I think it's the opposite. Well, and to end to tell you what she did, I was standing kind of in the lobby part of my museum, and I always have a stick because I point things out. I'm too short. I can't reach anything. Anyway, she came right up to me face to face. And she grabbed my stick right out of my hands. That shocked me. And she started yelling in my museum at the top of her lungs. And she said, in fact, that flag is braided exactly like those horses that you have in the back room, their hair. And
Did somebody end up keeping the flag the way it was and kind of like preserve it?
somebody did. Their name's Harriet, and they live in Nebraska.
There we
Oh,
go.
you have it in your museum now.
Nice. Good one.
Oh, that is
So
awesome.
you have that flag in your museum right now, and it's likened to the braided horse manes or hair, right?
It's exactly,
Wow.
absolutely.
So that was my next question. So
I-
what's your feature? What's your feature exhibit at your museum like right now, if you don't mind me asking? Your feature, like your main attraction, if you have one.
Braided flag, there's no doubt about it.
Okay.
Okay. No, listen.
That's a perfect point. That's why I like to walk through the museum with people, because when they always see the braided horsehair first, and if I point out the different things on the braids, then they know. And then when they go into the other museum and they see that flag, they all say it's exactly the same. It's the same. There's no doubt about it.
So let me ask you this: the woman who grabbed your stick away, did the Bigfoot guy Kenny? Did he have to knock her out? I mean, did you guys have to put her down? I mean, yeah, she sounds a little crazy.
No, she wasn't. And she was really angry, not at me, but at the situation. And she was yelling so loud that I've got 2 or 3 other rooms, close around there. And the people came out of the rooms and they said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay." Except she broke my dang stick. But anyway, she was mad at the situation. She was mad because that flag that was such a tradition in that community was destroyed. And I felt the same way. But as it turned out, I called at that time the flag was exactly 12 days afterwards, and I asked him if he'd send me a picture, and he did. And the second I saw it, I knew it was identical to what I had hanging on the wall. And so I asked if I could go up there to Garrison, and he said yes. And I was just amazed, absolutely, just I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no. Listen, I'm the same way. I thought so last week, this is the funny story. I thought somebody stole my flag out from the front of my house. And I was convinced. I looked around, all my neighbors on my side, they didn't have any flags. And I didn't realize, my wife had just taken the flag and put it down. It was really windy. I guess that's what everybody did. But I was upset because I thought somebody took my American flag. I mean, I'm not like a super patriot or anything, but I was pissed at somebody. I thought somebody took my flag. So I could see where she was upset.
So it was your American flag.
I don't
Oh, okay.
how many.
So
I don't have a Belarus flag.
somebody stole my garbage can one time, and I had to order a new one from the city. It took like 45 days. Which is funny.
Harriet, I gotta apologize. Ted gets a little like tossed off to the side there. But let me ask you this. Now, there's a lot of museums around the world, around America, that have that are the Bigfoot museums. Do you talk with them and kind of like discuss with them like the different things that they get and the different things you get? Do you guys trade stuff?
Yes, I've got a really good friend is Jim Myers, and he lives in Bailey, Colorado. He'd be a great one for you to interview. And his museum is called the Sasquatch Outpost. And so he sends me all of his hand-me-downs, and I've given him a couple of my braids to put in. And since he started explaining about the braids like I do, then people have been coming into him and say, "My horses have been braided also." And so now on my map that has the red pins for the sightings, it also has blue pins, which really close by me, that people that have little farms, especially if they're on a creek, that their horses, they go out overnight and they come in the morning to go to the stock tank, and their mane is braided.
What's your theory about why the horses would be braided versus like eaten? For like food, because I mean, you hear about like wolves, under the cover of night will eat
wolves
sheep.
can't braid.
What they eat, they eat livestock, but why that's such an unusual behavior?
Well, also not only that, but the horse allows it to happen, right?
Yes, that's true.
So, what the theory is behind that? Like, what is that like a catharsis for the creature? Or I mean, what does that do for them? Because it seems like it would take a long. It's like knitting a quilt. It would seem like it would take like a long time to have those intricate moves to
No, wait a minute. That's hold on, Harriet. Before you answer that, girls just sit around all day long and braid each other's hair.
And that's that has to be some
that's
sort of
that's
relationship
good
between
fine-
the horse
some
and,
good-
and the Bigfoot.
But that's
honestly,
some,
like
that's some
it's
good
gotta
fine
be
motor skills. That's some good
Yeah.
fine motor skills when you think about it.
So okay, that's a good point, Mark. Is Harriet? Is there some sort of relationship between a horse, like the horse and a Bigfoot thing?
It's almost like their pet.
Well,
or they
I thought about that a lot. And the one thing I think is the horses and the Bigfoot babies are born about the same time of the year, in the spring. And so I've often wondered, do they grow up together? Are they used to each other? They're not afraid. And the horses, when they come back in the morning, they're not injured at all, nothing. And even it's almost always the females that are braided. I'd say probably 90 to 95% of the time it's females, and only about 5 are the males. And they don't braid the male's mane, they braid his tail. And the only thing I think about that is I wonder because if they were out in the pasture, you could see from a long distance that his tail was braided.
Right.
I think.
So it's like a Bigfoot salon. It's more women than men. It's like a Bigfoot salon, right?
Yeah, right. But I just think that they live together. And I've got a braid in there in my museum right now. And it's not a very long one. And it had some white, I don't know, pieces of things in the braid. And it wasn't lint, and it wasn't like they'd been rolling on the ground like stickers or anything. And so they took one of those little pieces and they had it analyzed, and it came back that it was mare's milk, and it had dried up. So
these are they were cut off the horse, right? And
the what?
These were cut from a horse, right? The hair.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because see, the knots are so tight, you absolutely cannot untie the knots. And so people, when their horses are braided, they will take just that little piece of hair, maybe just a ½ inch across, and they just cut that braid out. And then, their mane will grow back.
Right.
That they'll have a little jump off there for probably a year or so.
So on, I'm not too familiar with Bigfoot. My first introduction, other than that famous film from California that you alluded to, was there was a HBO or a cable special called Finding Bigfoot, and it was on. I think it was on for several years, and it was teams of people with the night vision goggles. They would go out in the forest, whether it's like in Washington State or wherever, Ohio, where there's some sightings. And like I said, did you ever watch that series? Have you ever heard of it? Finding Bigfoot.
In fact, we had Cliff Barackman here. He was a speaker at one of our conferences, and we also had Bobo here. He was a speaker. And so I'm very familiar with that show. Okay. Yes.
Okay, so just I mean, I want to help you make money, because I feel like I'm like, whenever we have anybody on, I want them to make money. If you need to start like a Bigfoot braiding section in your museum, where they go in and they get their hair braided like Bigfoot, that'd be awesome.
You know what? This Don Monroe, he is the expert in the braided horses. And he stumbled on this by accident over 40 years ago. That's how long he has studied these horses. And then Igor Burtsev, who is an anthropologist PhD in Moscow in 1965, he ran into the braided horses there also. So now Igor studies the horses in Russia, Siberia, the Ukraine, all the countries that are around Russia. And in fact, Igor was a guest at our conference here a year ago, and he and Don had heard of each other but had never met. So when Don heard that Igor was coming, he said, "I'm coming if I have to hitchhike." And so they both brought lots of pictures, from Russia and from here. And they actually stayed at my house for 10 days. And that was very interesting. And anyway, looking at those pictures, those braids are identical. It doesn't matter if they're from Russia.
So that's a worldwide thing. Okay, that's what I was going to say. It's just not a thing that happens here. Just like you said, like the Bigfoot that Edmund Hillary saw, they're all related. They do the same things. They're cousins. They're very similar. So their nature is to do the same things, right? They probably eat the same things.
It's like hereditary.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're doing that to horses everywhere. Okay.
Yes. And the other thing that I would say is the knots and the braids are absolutely identical. And on this very first flag that they gave me, in fact, from that little town, was all the braids and the knots and everything. They were super, super tight. You could not untie them. But at the very top, there was a braid, and it was made out of the material that the white part of the flag. And it was not tight at all. It was so sloppy. It was loose. It just, and I thought, you know what? I bet you one of the kids did that one. And I would just bet money that they are teaching him how to braid. That was my feeling.
So you think it's a child Bigfoot, like a little foot that did that.
That worked on a part of it.
Well, just that one braid.
The one braid. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good anecdotal evidence because, like you said, I mean, like that's such an obscure thing that I've actually never heard of until just tonight.
Yeah, me neither.
And the fact that worldwide, that these creatures are doing exhibiting the same behavior. Because obviously that's something I don't think anybody could even Google that. Like I said, it wouldn't cross my mind to even Google that. When you could Google Bigfoot, or Yeti or Sasquatch or Abominable Snowman, I doubt that behavior or that character trait would come up. So I mean, that does lend some validity to kind of what you're saying. Because I mean, how could that be such a common thing worldwide?
And that leads me to the question, like Ted was talking about, why don't they eat the horse and everything? Are they? I mean, we know because I think in Georgia or somewhere they found like poop right from a Bigfoot. Are they carnivorous or do they eat? Are they?
Hold on, before you answer that, Harriet, Mark has a very foul mouth, so the fact that he just said poop instead of any other word for poop is really a big step right here.
Feces.
Yeah. Fecal matter samples.
Yes. But yeah,
so what do they eat? I mean, we know we have to. I mean, you and experts know what their diet consists of. I think, right?
Wow. Harriet, you sound different right now.
Quit.
That is so funny, Harriet. Just before you answer, we've had a couple weeks ago. We had my friend Anissa. Right, her baby was crying.
Yeah.
So we got dogs barking. I mean, I can't wait to see what happens next. But yeah, so what do Bigfoot eat?
Oh, what do they eat? I think the principal thing in their diet is deer. And of course, I mean, deer, they are in every single state.
Harriet, let me ask you something. Did you just hit your dog?
I just threw the notebook at her.
I think just shoot her away. That's
all. We had somebody that just drove in my driveway, and she thinks she's a killer guard dog.
Oh, that my dogs are exactly the same. Exactly the same.
I wanted to say just one thing that you said kind of just a few minutes ago. And, when I first heard the story, she said vandals did it. And that made me really angry because I don't like, when people malicious, destroy things.
Right.
Then when I saw the flag and the more I thought about it and I've talked to people and I've studied it again for 3 years now, I've studied it. And what I knew before, I knew it in my heart, is I feel that the Bigfoot are extremely artistic. And if you talk to any of the other Bigfooters, they will talk about, they see the big arches they make.
Right.
And you can see the big X's and teepees.
Oh, with tree
like that.
With tree limbs and stuff, right?
Yeah, tree limbs.
Yeah.
I saw the day after the flag was braided in Garrison at the cemetery. The city park was only just a half a mile from there, and a lady took me out to the park that they had this huge big tree. It's the diameter, I don't know if it was like a big elm or something, but anyway, the diameter was about, I'd say 2 to 3 feet across. It was a big tree and probably 30 to 40 feet tall, but around at the lowest part of where the branches were on the trees, there was 6 new little branches that were starting out, and they were all about, I'd say maybe 7 or 8 feet long. And of course they were pointing upwards, and there were 6 of them, and they were about 1 inch in diameter. So at that time, they're really, really flexible. You can bend them and they won't break.
Sure.
And so she took me out to the park, and they had taken a hold of 6 of these new little starts, and they bent them clear to the ground, and then they braided the 6 branches together. And I was standing right there, and just about like where my knee would be, they tied them all together in a knot.
And they were pointing to pointing to the ground.
And those branches were obviously braided. There was no doubt about it.
Okay, so when they're doing all this stuff that's so like easy to find and things that are like kind of like stepping stones, do you think the bigs, I'm calling bigs because Bigfoots, I'm just giving them a name, bigs. Do you think the bigs want to be found? Do you think they want people to say, hey, look at us, and we want to be found, and we just want to be like we're here, and just kind of like be cool with us?
I don't know if it's exactly like we want to be found, but I do think they are artistic, and I do know they make a lot of braids, different kinds, and they give them to us all the time as gifts. And when they give us a gift, it is so obvious it was planted there. It was no accident. And I think it's kind of like a reaching out. I feel like somebody after that told me that they thought that the flag, they did not intend it to be malicious or harmful or anything, that she thought it was a beautiful thing that they had made, and that was a gift to us. So that right there, it kind of changed my whole attitude.
So my question is, what do you think exactly is a Bigfoot species? Is it closer to man? Is it ape? Is it, obviously it's not a bear, of course, but like, for example, humans are genetically related to a bonobos monkey. We have 99% the same DNA as a bonobos monkey. That's
just made that word up. That's not
that's a scientific.
Not a monkey.
That's a scientific.
We're not related to monkeys.
Yeah, that's
You're a moron.
Or chimpanzee.
No, ape.
Yeah,
and
but
a monkey are different.
But people are 99% similar DNA.
You're related to a monkey.
Yeah.
I'm related to an ape. We'll keep it at that.
So what's your opinion on that?
I think it's like I said earlier. I love what the Russians say. They say they are the forest people.
Right.
So people, hence the term people. So they're
kind
people.
of right.
Yeah.
They are just another us.
So,
and you know what? Those Indian tribes have lived with the Bigfoot for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's no more of a big deal for them to see a Bigfoot than it is like when I go out in the backyard. I got rabbits all over the place, and occasionally a raccoon or a possum. And I don't call the Omaha World Herald and say, hey, come out to my yard.
Right.
There's a raccoon in my yard. You
Right.
can't see this. And that's the way the tribes are. They're around them all the time.
So,
they live with them. They get along okay.
So I want to go back to, speaking of your backyard, when you had the group, the school group over, and
Yes.
the Bigfoot kind of ran across and hid behind a tree.
Yes.
What was like how many people were there?
There was myself and the lady that was the instructor, and she had 5 students. They were college students going to the technical college.
So that were
just a small group.
Everybody had to be more than freaked out and excited. A ton of emotions running through, right? How did it end? Like, what happened after he or she ran across and then got behind that tree, and then how did it end?
Well, at first they screamed, but I don't think it was so much in terror. It was surprise.
Startled, right? Everybody was startled.
Totally caught off guard. And then it was funny because they began to whisper. They're like, hey, did you see that guy? Did you see him? Like that, and they were all standing looking at him. He was right behind, there was a Y in the tree. And so he was looking around the tree, just like they say, a tree peeker. And so they stood and they looked at each other for a few minutes. And I think really, if you were out in the forest and you did see one, people always say, how come you didn't take a picture? Well, for one thing, it happened so fast. And secondly, you are so surprised and caught off guard. And this is out of the realm of your knowledge. I don't care if you've studied Bigfoot for 100 years. When you first see one, it's just so amazing that you just can't get over it.
So the funny thing, we talk about that film from California, the most famous film of all time, but there actually is a photo, and we don't think it's a deep fake. It was actually in modern times. I think it was a family out in the forest somewhere. I don't know what state it was, but it was within the last 15 years for sure.
Oh yeah.
And so the man was taking a picture of his family, and in the background, in the trees, if you look very carefully, there was something in that tree.
Absolutely, I saw that.
Yeah, and it's not, and it wasn't a possum. It wasn't a bear. It was definitely something kind of what you were alluding to. And I think that's a legit photo. That was not a deep fake or photoshopped. And that was actually, so I actually think that photo is more legitimate than that film from, that film from California, because, a lot of people say, oh, it's just a guy dressed up in a suit. We don't really know. But that still photo actually is very telling. And I wish I knew where it was from. And I'm sure we could all Google it to find out.
Harry, have you heard of that picture?
Yeah, I can't remember. I know I saw that also, but I don't know where it is. But going back to the Patterson Gimlin film, they have analyzed that probably 500 times at least.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Of course, they want to prove that it is a fake, but in my opinion, what they have done with every time they analyzed it was they proved that it was the real deal.
And I think the biggest thing that comes about that is they question, like, oh, here's a guy who is searching for Bigfoot. He goes out and bam, first try with a camera, films Bigfoot. Come on. They're like, that's a coincidence. Well, how could that happen? But then he says, well, why wouldn't I go there with a camera? That's where he was last spotted. It makes sense. I just got lucky. But it wasn't a random thing. He went there with the intention of filming Bigfoot because he was spotted there, right?
And I'm sorry, what year was that again?
67.
Yeah, October 20, 1967. Oh, okay. And it was true. They did go looking for the Bigfoot. They had already been there for 28 days. They were leaving the next morning to go home.
Right.
And one thing that Bob Gimlin said when he was here speaking that I loved, Roger Patterson had the video camera, and Bob Gimlin had a rifle or a shotgun that was in the saddle on his horse. And Bob's job was to protect them, because at that time they didn't know what they were looking for, but there were bears there and mountain lions. They lived there. And so Bob's job was to protect them. But when he came here, he said, from the very beginning, they did not go to kill. They went to take pictures.
Sure. That's
what they went for. And then Bob said he never once ever in 28 days had his gun out of the holster.
Well, yeah, we don't hear about Bigfoot. We don't hear about, rampages or anything like that. So, but let me ask you this, because we're getting kind of close to the end. We're kind of, when do you think that we're going to get absolute? Because I asked the same thing to our UFO guy, Mac Maloney, right? And I said, when do you think we're going to get absolute, verifiable, no doubt about it proof that Bigfoot exists? Where are we, like in the absolute, nobody can deny that this thing is real?
In my opinion, we already have it. The Patterson Gimlin film, I've never seen one better. I've seen hundreds of photographs and stuff, but not as good as Patty walking down the creek.
Right.
Okay, but are we gonna get? Is somebody gonna take a selfie? Here's the when you said those kids, the college kids were there. I could see why they didn't take a picture, because probably people right now are like, oh, why didn't they get a picture? They're probably taking selfies. Kids don't. That's all kids do is take pictures of themselves.
Camera's pointed the wrong way.
The camera's always pointed the wrong way, right? Everywhere I go, whenever I it's so funny. I see kids walking around all the time, and their face is buried in the phone, and they're either taking pictures of themselves or they're looking at something. They would never even think to look around.
Or they're just on TikTok.
Yeah. Or they would never think to look around and even like film anything.
Right.
Okay. But here's what I'm thinking: when are we going to have like an absolute HD film, or some guy sits down and talks with a Bigfoot? When do you think that there is going to be absolute, like, and I'm not talking about like we believe that film, the Patterson Gimlin film. I'm talking about like absolute whole world believes it.
I don't think it's ever going to happen because they never believed that.
Yeah, you know what? I that's the thing. I mean, some people just want it to be. Like, some people just want to be able to naysay it, right?
Well, you're always going to have skeptics. And, I don't mind skeptics at all when they come to the museum, because I tell you what, those people ask really good questions, and it makes you think, what do I really believe about this or that or whatever? And so they're okay. I only had one guy that was a jerk, and I offered to give him his $5 back, and he could go to McDonald's and have a Big Mac, but he wouldn't leave.
Do you have to call the police and have him removed from the premises?
Nope, I didn't. My friend says, I just smile him to death. So that's what I do.
Or cattle prod.
Listen. As Chicago guys, if there's a guy you got a problem with, I mean, we'll deal with them the Chicago way.
We got a guy down in Nebraska right now.
We got a guy, and we'll take care of him for you. So we can kind of be like your security. Yeah, we've done that a million times. So so before we kind of put an end to this thing, you have a conference coming up in April, and you guys do a Bigfoot conference. What goes on in this Bigfoot conference?
And where's is the conference in Nebraska or somewhere else?
Oh, of course it's in Nebraska.
Oh, I love it. Nice.
It's a mile from where I live. And what I was going to say about that, even though you're ready to end, is if you guys were smart, you would come to our conference and record your program there, because there's going to be a lot of information there.
Harriet, we're three idiots, just so you know. I mean, so when you're asking if we're smart, we're not. But yeah, so that was, and this is funny. So one of the things that Harriet, when we talked immediately right away, and again, I just knew she was going to be the perfect guest, right? She said, you guys got to come down to the conference, and I did not say we wouldn't.
I'd like to see the museum.
I know.
I would love to see the museum.
Okay, so Harriet, here, let me do this. Could we be your Illinois correspondents?
Absolutely.
Oh man, we have got this down. So I mean, you know what, guys, I would love a road trip down there during the conference. Right? We could do a show right from the conference. Enjoy that. That would be a blast. You guys in?
Yeah.
Yeah, Harriet, hold on.
I was in for a road trip.
Yeah, okay. Just so you know, Harriet, and they
80
say
all the way, right?
It's 80 all the way.
Yeah.
You know what we could do? I love the concept of this. We could do a show every day on the road.
Okay.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That would be so much fun.
I'm Googling Hastings, Nebraska right now.
Teddy.
Well, and also for your own information, the day before the conference is April 20th. And on that day, we are going to officially have a grand opening for our brand new building, number 3. And nobody's seen it yet. And I can guarantee you it's going to be different.
Is that the horse braid? Is that where you're putting the displays?
So the horse braid is in our first building. The flag is in the second one. And the third one, I'm not telling you what's going to be in there.
Nice. I love it.
Oh, my God.
And plus, you have your garden, too, right? The outdoor area.
She's only 622 miles away. It's down the street.
Hold on. Harriet, hold on. Listen, Teddy's saying you're 600 miles away, but here's what I can tell you. We've driven that far to golf all the time. And to go that far.
That's because there's traffic.
Yeah. Okay, so listen, I cannot guarantee this, but here's what I'm saying. There is a very good chance that the real 3 idiots are going to do a live dedication to that opening. I love the concept of that.
Yes, and I think you will love it because it's like I said earlier, I think so many of these things are related. I feel that in my heart. Some things I can't prove, but I know one thing they found not too far from us a complete skeleton of a woolly mammoth elephant, and laying underneath him was a spear that a man had made, but he was underneath this elephant that was 10,000 years old.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the guy that the woolly mammoth fell on the guy, and they both ended up dying just like that. Yeah.
But, you know, that kind of makes you wonder. And I always thought that the Bigfoot lived at the same time that the elephants did. I don't think that's a stretch.
Well, the woolly mammoth. Yeah, no. I mean,
yeah, we have a lot of them around here.
That's amazing. I mean, that was why I was thinking, like, why would Bigfoot be in Nebraska? But it goes back millions of years, right? They were probably always there. Like the woolly mammoths were there. They died off. Yeah.
Oh man,
but there are areas. I mean, Nebraska is not just all flatland. There's forests and there's places for them to thrive.
They don't even need a forest. I mean, they stack up sticks and they make nests. I've got a nest in my backyard, and so the garden, everything out there. I've got arches and X's, and I've got nests. I've got a killing field. I've got all kinds of things out there. And it was so that the people that are handicapped that can't go out in the forest like we do, they can still see what we see.
Okay.
That's why I made it. And I guess we kind of have something for everyone.
That is awesome. Okay, so real quick, it's NebraskaBigfootMuseum.com. That's your website. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, that is awesome. Okay.
But wait.
Okay, go ahead.
I did see something which blew me away. When I searched for you online, you're on the Nebraska State website, and you're also on another website. It's incredible information. I mean, you're on the Nebraska State website.
Yes.
It's awesome. I mean, I looked at that and I was like, holy crap. I mean, it's the first website that came up when I put in Nebraska Bigfoot was the official state website for Nebraska.
Oh yeah. Well, the governor literally named her the Bigfoot lady.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I can tell you right now, Harriet, the governor is never going to name anything after the three of us. No. Not a single thing.
Even though he has connections here. His family's from here. You never
know because, and you know what? Earlier this year, we were inaugurated into the United States Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. Wow. And when they did it, they said they only have one of everything in that entire museum. So they've got one Bigfoot lady, they've got one Bigfoot guy, they have got one Bigfoot museum, and they have got one Bigfoot book.
That's amazing.
And that's us, all four.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. And that's just being open 4 years, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yep. but that's your stick-to-itiveness. Yeah. I mean, that is you doing all these things and having all this stuff and building all these things. Okay, so listen, I'm gonna take it one step further. The real Three Idiots will be at your opening. There is no doubt about it. We will absolutely be there, and we will do a show from there. It's locked in stone.
That would be so much fun. You would have a blast.
Okay.
That sounds like a good time.
It does. It sounds like a great time. I cannot wait. 600 miles. And here's the best part. It's 600 miles in a car with Ted.
And we're not going to shave him. From this day on, we're not going to shave Ted.
Well, you know what? And that's the thing. I just got a haircut today, but I'm really upset because if somehow I like got down there and I had long hair and somehow I got lost in the woods, my hair is too short for a Bigfoot to braid, so I would probably just be food.
I'll stop I'll stop trimming my beard.
Oh man, and that's what, Harriet, that is the scariest thing because he had a giant braidable beard.
Yeah, I did.
And he looked like terrifying. He looked like instead of like Santa who gives you presents, it was Santa who took your presents and then murdered you. Yeah, it was really scary.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so Harriet, we do this thing, and I'm sure I'm not even going to ask if you've ever listened to the show, because there's no way a lady as nice as you would ever be on our show if you had heard it before. But the thing we do at the end, the thing we do at the end is we do our last words. So I will not ask you to go first, but Teddy, I'll ask Teddy. Teddy, your last words. What do you want to leave our listeners with today after our awesome Bigfoot show?
Yeah, I just want to say, Harry, it was so glad to have you on the show, and I learned a lot today, and especially the tidbit about the horse braiding, which I had no concept of. So it was definitely some teachable moments, and thank you so much for taking the time today to spend some time with us. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Hey, absolutely. Mark, your last ideas, your last thoughts on our fantastical Bigfoot show.
Well, it's topical, and I will say that there are a lot of skeptics out there, and I've always been kind of on the fence. But speaking to you, I would say don't discredit anything that's out there until you really look at it or give it a second chance, or even better. And I know that anybody that's on the fence, if they came down or wherever they're from, if they went to Nebraska and went to your museum, you could really open some minds. I think it's awesome, and I really appreciate you being on the show. It's a lot of fun. There's so much more information. We could talk for 3 hours and still not even touch it. That's why going there and on April 20th will be
fantastic.
Hopefully we can make that
Yeah,
happen.
it'd be a blast.
Yeah, it's fun. Thank you so much, Harriet.
All right, Harriet, you get to leave our listeners with your last thoughts for the show. Go ahead.
Wow. First of all, I was really honored that you asked me. And this is my passion. This is the love of my life. And you know what? The goal of our museum and the conference from the very beginning is that we would be historical, educational, and scientific. And we have never wavered from that. So even the skeptics sort of like me.
Well, it's not hard to like you,
That's
right? It's definitely not hard to like you. But what's harder to do is gain respect, and I think that they respect you in addition to liking you. Liking you is easy, right? But respecting the things that are in the museum and what you stand for, that's more difficult, and I think that that's what they probably do. They probably respect you a lot more because you guys hold true to what you just said. Can't argue with that. Nice.
I agree. And it's in my book. It's in a way it told the whole story, and it's really kind of controversial, but all the way through I said on every chapter, I said, you know what? These are the facts. This is what I found out. I investigated every single thing in that book. And I said, I am giving you all of the facts, everything I know, and now you can make your own opinion.
That is, okay, so
just the facts, ma'am.
Just the facts,
Joe
man.
Friday.
Oh, I like that. So I always get the last say, and this is the thing I'm going to say is every single person we've had on this show, it's the same thing. I end up talking to them, months before we do this, right? And I know exactly who is going to be perfect for the show, and I know who it just wouldn't be, kind of, isn't that thing. And as I had about a 20-minute, Harriet and I talked for about 20 minutes. She had never heard of me before in my life, right? And I knew immediately, as soon as I talked to her, that she was, number one of the nicest people to have on the show, right? And very genuine, and she was going to bring all the information we could. Now listen, if you believe, you believe. If you don't believe, you don't believe, and that is just the way it is. But listen, Harriet, I want to thank you so much. And listen, I'm going to tell you right now, even if Mark and Ted don't get down to that conference, I will be there in April. Yeah, and if I got to do the show by myself, I will do the show by myself.
There'll just be the one idiot.
I think I'm stupid enough to be an idiot. I'm 3 idiots worth no matter what.
Uno idiote.
I love it. All right, Harriet, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Harriet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. That was fun.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. All right, listen, guys, listen up. You know what's coming up. We've got some great things coming up in the next 3-4 weeks. You know what? If I told you what it was, everybody would blush. But listen, keep listening, keep enjoying, and have fun.